Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I had a few questions about alternating skeins when knitting, so I thought I'd do a quick video showing you how I do it. It's a pretty easy technique and it works out pretty well for me. So the first thing that I do is when I'm winding my balls, I try to figure out or designate them as like two different options. So in this case, I said this one was my light and this is my dark. And you can see how if you're just looking at the top of it, that the colors in this one tend to be a little bit lighter and a little bit darker. Sometimes it helps to take a picture of the wound skeins using your grayscale filter on your phone. And that way it's a little bit easier to tell what the differences are. But once I do that, I sort of designate them. So this one I designated as light, and obviously this one I designated as dark. This one I also went through and figured out which order I wanted to use my balls in. So this is going to be the third ball, this is going to be the fifth ball, and so forth and so forth. So that's a little bit of setup. And then when you are knitting itself, one reason why I like to alternate skeins is I think it adds a little bit more variance into the knitting. So you can see here that this is a widely variegated yarn, but it does have blues and has some greens. And you run into the possibility of maybe getting some color pooling. So you might have a large blob of blue if you're using just one ball at a time, or a large ball of green. And this adds a little bit more complexity in there and sort of gives it more of that television static look, which I think is a little bit more visually appealing, to have more randomness to it. So here's my work, and I'm coming up to the section where I'm going to change out my skein, but just to start here. So this is the yarn that I'm working with. I apologize that this yarn is so dark, but it's the only one that I have in my stash right now that needs to be alternated. So what I do is I just knit up into the point where I need to alternate my skein. And this way I can tell that I need to alternate because I have this thread or yarn that is sticking out in front here. And that's the one that I'm going to switch to. So all I need to do is take the one that I have been using and I put it around to the front of my right hand needle. And then I take the yarn that I'm going to use next and bring it to the back of my left needle, and then I continue knitting on and moving forward. So I am going to knit around this entire body, and I'll come back to you again when I'm coming back to this changeover point. Okay, just coming back around again, I have, let's say, 5 more stitches until I get to my changeover point where my yarn is sticking out in front. And just like we did last time, I'm going to take my old yarn, bring it around to the front of my right hand needle, and then I'm going to take my new yarn and bring it from the front to the back so I can start working with it. At this point, generally I need to change the positions of my balls so that they don't get twisted. That's really all you have to do. So when you're looking at this changeover point, it does always look a little bit funky right on that top row, but it always evens out as I go along. So this is the underarm section, right? Here's your sleeve, and this is going to be the underarm section. So I have been alternating skeins all along here, and you can see that it's pretty even. Like you just see my little decreases, but you can't really see the section where I am alternating skeins, which is ideally what you want. And on this particular sweater, I did have to alternate skeins along the front here where I was joining for my neck until I reached that underarm section. So for this right here is where I was alternating skeins. And again, you can barely tell. Like if you look really close, you can sort of see a tension difference where I'm changing skeins, but you can't really see it at all. So this has been the best method that I've found to use. You can tell a little bit more on the inside. There's this sort of like indent right here where I've changed to skeins, but it's really difficult to see, and it's not something that I think you'll see once it's blocked out. But that is how I alternate skeins. I think it gives you a really nice finish. Sort of looks cohesive. I don't see any differences in the colors that move across there, and I find it really easy. So when I'm knitting like this, I don't bother with my beginning of round marker. I just use this front thread or my changeover point to tell me when my beginning of round is. So that's why I've moved it over to the underarm section now that I've joined the body and separated for the sleeves. So I hope this was helpful for you in figuring out how to alternate skeins. Like I said, I think it really gives a nice, more even variegated effect. And one thing to keep in mind is you're always alternating between two different ones, so a light and a dark, or ones that are slightly different. That's going to give you the most cohesive blend. So I hope everybody found this informative and helpful, and I see everyone next time. Take care.